I was 35 years old when my world collapsed. As a software developer, I had built a comfortable life with Amanda, my wife of 8 years. We had what I believed was a rock-solid marriage based on trust and mutual respect. That was until she dropped a bombshell over dinner one night, casually suggesting she wanted to go on a date with her coworker Kyle to, in her words, spice up our marriage. At first I thought she was joking, but her serious expression told me otherwise. I never imagined I would end up changing the locks and serving her divorce papers, but sometimes life forces you to stand up for yourself. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you believe marriage vows actually mean something. Trust me, you will want to hear how I handled this situation. Amanda and I met during our junior year of college, both of us studying in the library during finals week. I noticed her struggling with a calculus problem and offered to help. That simple interaction blossomed into coffee dates, study sessions, and eventually love. After graduation, we dated for 2 more years before I proposed during a trip to the Grand Canyon. The sunrise proposal was something out of a movie, and when she said yes, I felt like the luckiest man alive. Our wedding was small but perfect, surrounded by 50 of our closest friends and family. We wrote our own vows, promising to be faithful, supportive, and committed to each other forever. Those first years of marriage were everything I had hoped for. We communicated well-made decisions together and genuinely enjoyed building our life as a team. I worked hard at my software development job, often putting in extra hours to ensure we could afford the house we both wanted in a good neighborhood. Amanda worked as a marketing executive at a growing company, and we both took pride in our careers while making our marriage the priority. Looking back, I can pinpoint when things started to change about 6 months before the infamous dinner conversation. Amanda began coming home later from work, often smelling of perfume that seemed freshly applied. She became protective of her phone, always keeping it face down or taking calls in another room. I noticed these changes but brushed them off, trusting her completely and not wanting to seem paranoid or controlling. The night that changed everything started like any other. I made reservations at Bellini, the Italian restaurant where we celebrated our anniversaries. It was a Friday in October, and I thought we were simply having our monthly date night, a tradition we had maintained throughout our marriage. The restaurant was busy, ambient lighting, creating a romantic atmosphere as soft jazz played in the background. We ordered our usual bottle of Cabernet and shared an appetizer of calamari. The conversation flowed normally until we received our entrees. Amanda twirled pasta around her fork, looked up at me with an unusually casual expression, and said, "I have been thinking about something that might add some excitement to our marriage." I smiled, assuming she was suggesting a vacation or perhaps a new hobby we could share. "What did you have in mind?" She took a sip of wine before continuing. "Kyle from my department and I have been talking, and we have this connection. I would like to go on a date with him." I laughed, certain she was joking, but when her expression remained serious, my fork froze midway to my mouth. She continued as if discussing the weather. "I think it would spice things up for us. Add some new energy to our relationship." My mind struggled to process her words. A date. With her coworker. I set my fork down carefully. Suddenly not hungry. "It is just physical, Patrick," she explained. "It does not mean anything emotional. Lots of modern couples do this. It is healthy." I took a deep breath, trying to manage the sensation of my heart pounding against my ribs. Is this a joke? Because if it is, I do not find it funny. Amanda reached across the table to touch my hand. "I am completely serious. My friend Jessica and her husband tried it, and she says their marriage is stronger than ever." I pulled my hand back. "So you want permission to cheat on me? Because that is what you are asking." She rolled her eyes. "Do not be so dramatic. It is not cheating if you know about it and agree to it. Think of it as expanding our marriage, exploring new experiences." The remainder of dinner passed in a blur. I tried to ask rational questions to understand where this was coming from, but each answer felt like another stab to my heart. Amanda spoke about boundaries and rules, as if we were negotiating a business contract, rather than discussing the foundation of our marriage. The drive home was silent. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white while Amanda scrolled through her phone, as if we had just discussed weekend grocery plans rather than potentially destroying our marriage. I pulled into our garage and turned off the engine. Before getting out, I turned to her. Our wedding vows mentioned faithfulness. Did those words mean anything to you? She sighed heavily. People evolve, Patrick. Marriage evolves. We should not be bound by outdated concepts. I went to bed that night, feeling like I was living in an alternate reality, lying next to a stranger wearing my wife's face. Saturday morning brought no clarity. Over coffee and toast, I tried again to understand. Where is this really coming from? Amanda, are you unhappy with me? With us, she set down her coffee cup with too much force. Why do you have to make this about you? This is about us exploring possibilities, growing together. Growing together by sleeping with other people, I fail to see how that strengthens our marriage. Her eyes narrowed. You are being controlling and outdated. This is why I need something different. You are so stuck in your ways. Our conversation escalated into the first serious fight we had had in years. Voices raised, tears fell, and accusations flew. Amanda claimed I was stifling her, while I maintained that fidelity was a reasonable expectation in marriage. She eventually grabbed her purse and stormed out, saying she needed air. She did not return until after 10 that night, refusing to tell me where she had been. The sinking feeling in my stomach grew stronger. Sunday morning, I made one last attempt to salvage things. I suggested marriage counseling over the pancakes I had prepared, hoping to reconnect. Maybe we should talk to someone professional about this. Work through it together. Amanda agreed half-heartedly, but the distance between us remained palpable. That evening, I prepared her favorite dinner salmon with roasted vegetables and bought several books on strengthening marriage. She barely touched the food and showed no interest in the books. As I lay awake that night, I vacillated between hope that this was just a phase and the growing suspicion that something more was happening beneath the surface. In the weeks that followed, Amanda transformed before my eyes. She bought new outfits for work, more revealing than her usual professional attire. She began wearing a different perfume, something exotic and unfamiliar. Our physical intimacy, which had already been declining, nearly disappeared entirely. Late nights at the office became her new normal. Sometimes, she would call to let me know, but often, I would simply receive a text at 6 or 7 in the evening, working late, do not wait up. Each morning, she spent extra time on her appearance, trying new hairstyles, and applying makeup more carefully than before. I noticed her smiling at text messages, quickly turning her phone away when I entered the room. Sleep became elusive for me. I would lie awake listening to her breathing beside me, wondering who this woman had become. Dark circles formed under my eyes, and coworkers began asking if I was feeling well. My breaking point came when I was doing laundry one Sunday and emptied the pockets of her pants before putting them in the washer. A crumpled receipt fell out from La Maison, an expensive French restaurant across town. The date was the previous Tuesday, a night she had told me she was having dinner with female colleagues. The total was for 2 people, including a bottle of champagne. Something compelled me to look further. In her dresser drawer beneath her sweaters, I found a small jewelry box containing a silver necklace with a pendant I had never seen before. When I casually asked about it that evening, she claimed it was a gift from her mother. I called my mother-in-law the next day, under the pretense of planning a surprise for Amanda. In our conversation, she mentioned she had not given Amanda any gifts recently. One evening, Amanda was showering when her phone chimed with a message. I had never checked her phone before, believing that trust and privacy were important in marriage, but my instincts were screaming that something was wrong. The message preview on her lock screen read, "Cannot wait to see you tomorrow. Same room as last time." The next morning, I checked our shared credit card statement online. There it was, a charge from the Grand Hotel downtown from 2 weeks earlier, on an afternoon when Amanda had told me she was attending a marketing seminar. That evening, I confronted her with what I had found. I laid out the receipt, the credit card statement, and mentioned the text message. Amanda did not even appear particularly concerned. The restaurant, that was with clients, not colleagues. I must have misspoken. The hotel. There was a private meeting room rented for the marketing department that day. The necklace. She had actually bought it herself, but was embarrassed about the price, so made up the story about her mother. For each piece of evidence, she had a plausible explanation. She turned the conversation around, accusing me of spying on her, violating her privacy, and showing toxic jealousy. "You see, this is exactly why I need space to breathe in this relationship," she said, her voice rising. "You are suffocating me with your paranoia and distrust." By the end of our conversation, I found myself apologizing to her despite the knot in my stomach telling me something was very wrong. Before going to bed, Amanda delivered what felt like an ultimatum. Either I accept her going on dates with Kyle, or I was risking our entire marriage. She claimed my resistance was pushing her away, and that if I truly loved her, I would want her happiness above all else. I spent the next day in a fog of confusion and heartache. During lunch, I called my best friend Michael, someone who had known us both since college. "Michael, I need your perspective. Amanda wants to date her coworker. She says it will strengthen our marriage. Am I crazy for thinking this is wrong?" The line went quiet for several seconds. Then Michael spoke carefully. "Patrick, there is something you should know. I saw Amanda 2 weeks ago, at Riverfront Restaurant. She was with a guy and they did not look like coworkers. They were holding hands across the table. I was going to tell you, but I was not 100% sure what I was seeing." My stomach dropped. "Can you describe him?" "Tall, dark hair, athletic build. Wearing an expensive watch." That matched the description of Kyle that I had pieced together from Amanda's occasional mentions of work colleagues. I called my parents that evening, careful not to share too many painful details, but asking about their perspective on marriage and commitment. My father, married to my mother for 35 years, was unequivocal. "Marriage means honoring your promises, son. If those promises no longer work, you end the marriage cleanly before starting something new. Anything else is just betrayal dressed up in fancy words." I also scheduled a phone session with a therapist, needing professional guidance. The therapist listened to my situation and asked pointed questions about my boundaries and values. "Patrick, what does fidelity mean to you in marriage? And are you willing to compromise on that meaning?" The question crystallized everything for me. I was not willing to compromise on faithfulness. It was a core value, not a negotiable preference. With growing certainty that Amanda was already involved with Kyle beyond what she had admitted, I decided to gather conclusive evidence. I took a rare day off work without telling Amanda and parked down the street from our house. At 7:30 in the morning, I watched Kyle pull up in a silver Audi. Amanda came out, looked around furtively, then got into his car. Before they drove away, they shared a passionate kiss that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. I followed at a distance as they drove to their office building. Even after seeing them enter, I remained parked, trying to process what I had witnessed. That same week, when Amanda mentioned a late marketing meeting, I tracked her phone location through our shared family account. It led not to her office, but to an apartment complex across town. The location remained there until after 11 at night. The final confirmation came when Amanda left her laptop open one evening after falling asleep on the couch. A notification appeared from a messaging app I did not recognize. My finger hovered over the trackpad, my ethics battling with my need for truth. Truth won. The messages between her and Kyle went back nearly 4 months, long before she had ever suggested opening our marriage. They contained explicit photos, declarations of passion, and detailed accounts of their physical encounters. Most devastatingly, they included mocking comments about me and my ignorance. "Kyle, does he suspect anything, Amanda?" "Not a clue. I told him I want to date you officially, and he actually thought I was asking permission." "What a joke." "Kyle, when are you going to leave him?" "Amanda, soon. I am working on it. Just need to make sure I get what I deserve in the divorce." I quietly closed the laptop and went to our spare bedroom, where I spent the night staring at the ceiling, my entire marriage revealed as a lie. The breaking point came the following Tuesday. Amanda was making dinner, something she rarely did anymore, when she casually announced, "By the way, Kyle and I are going out Friday night, an official date. I made reservations at Meridian for 7. I stared at her, my fork suspended midair. "You are still going through with this, even after all our discussions?" She flipped her hair over her shoulder dismissively. "We have discussed it enough. I am doing this with or without your blessing." Kyle satisfies me in ways you never could. Her cruel words hung in the air between us. In that moment, something shifted inside me. The pain was still there, but now accompanied by a clarity I had been lacking. I realized I was trying to save a marriage that one person had already abandoned. I was fighting for someone who did not respect me enough to even properly end things before beginning another relationship. I excused myself from the table, went to our bedroom, and for the first time in weeks, felt certainty about what needed to happen. I called my friend Thomas, who worked as an attorney, specializing in family law. "Thomas, I need your help. I think my marriage is over." An hour later, I was in his office sharing everything. He listened without judgment, taking notes occasionally. "Patrick, based on what you have told me, you have grounds for divorce, based on adultery. Here is what we need to do." Over the next 2 days, I followed Thomas's advice meticulously. I gathered copies of all our financial records and transferred exactly half of our savings into a separate account. I took photos of the text messages and saved them securely. I documented the timeline of events, including dates and locations where Amanda had lied about her whereabouts. I took inventory of our possessions, identifying which items were mine before marriage and which were gifts specifically to me. I photographed family heirlooms and items of sentimental value. On Thursday, I called my parents to inform them of my decision. My mother cried not because she disapproved, but because she hurt for me. My father simply said, "You are doing the right thing, son. Your self-respect is worth more than any marriage." I scheduled a locksmith for Friday evening, as well as a moving company. I took the day off work and spent the morning preparing. When Amanda left for work that morning, she had no idea it would be the last time she entered our home as my wife. Throughout the day, I packed her personal belongings, carefully but efficiently. Clothes, jewelry, books, and personal mementos went into boxes. I was neither destructive nor vindictive, simply methodical. I left her family heirlooms and photographs untouched, knowing those items were irreplaceable. At 6 that evening, Amanda texted, "Heading out now. Do not wait up." I replied simply, "Okay." The locksmith arrived at 6:30 and changed every lock in the house. He also helped me reset the security system codes and garage door opener. By 7:15, the house was secure. At 7:30, the movers arrived and loaded Amanda's boxed belongings into their truck, delivering them to a storage facility I had rented in her name. I provided the facility with her contact information so she could access her things. At 8:30, I met with a process server, providing him with the divorce papers Thomas had prepared. I gave him Kyle's address, knowing exactly where Amanda would be spending her evening. By 9, I was back home. Our house, but no longer our home. I walked through the rooms feeling a strange mixture of grief and liberation. The life we had built was over, but I was reclaiming my dignity and self-respect. At 11:22, my phone exploded with notifications. First came text messages from Amanda. "Why is my key not working? Are you serious right now? Open the door immediately. What have you done with my things?" Then came the phone calls. I let them go to voicemail, listening as her messages escalated from confusion to rage. The final message came at 11:45. "You will regret this. I am coming over with Kyle right now. You better open the door." At 12:15 in the morning, they arrived. I watched through our security camera as Amanda pounded on the door, Kyle standing behind her looking uncomfortable. I used the camera's speaker function to communicate. "Amanda, your belongings are at Safe Store on 5th Street, Unit 312. The access code is your birth date. I have filed for divorce based on adultery. Please direct any further communication through my attorney." Her face contorted with rage. "You cannot do this to me. This is my house too. The property is in my name, as you know. You chose to pursue a relationship with Kyle while still married to me. Now you can continue that relationship without the inconvenience of a husband." Kyle stepped forward, trying to appear intimidating. "Listen, man, you are overreacting. This is between you and Amanda." "No," I replied calmly. "You inserted yourself into my marriage. You are very much involved in this situation." Amanda's tactics shifted from anger to pleading. "Patrick, please. We can talk about this. I made a mistake. Let me in so we can discuss this like adults. We have nothing to discuss. The divorce papers explain everything. You have been served, by the way. The process server found you at Kyle's apartment, exactly where I knew you would be. Her expression changed as the reality of the situation sank in. You planned all this while I was on my date, I did. I also planned it while you were having an affair for 4 months before ever mentioning the idea of dating Kyle. Your messages with him were quite enlightening. Kyle pulled at Amanda's arm, clearly wanting to leave. She shook him off. This is not over, she threatened. Actually, it is. Good night, Amanda. I turned off the camera and security system notifications, knowing she might continue her efforts for some time. Then I took a sleeping pill, something I had never needed before, and fell into the first untroubled sleep I had experienced in months. That first night alone in what had once been our home was surreal. Despite the sleeping pill, I woke early, momentarily confused by the emptiness beside me. Then the events of the previous day came rushing back, bringing with them a tidal wave of emotions. I felt grief for the marriage I thought I had, anger at the betrayal, relief that I had taken action, and beneath it all a profound sadness that someone I had loved so completely could hurt me so deliberately. I called in sick, to work needing time to process. My phone continued to receive messages from Amanda, alternating between threats and pleas. Following Thomas's advice, I did not respond to any of them. My parents came over that afternoon bringing food and support. My mother hugged me tightly, tears in her eyes. I am so proud of you, Patrick, she said. It takes courage to stand up for yourself like this. My father clapped me on the shoulder. You will get through this, son, one day at a time. Michael and a few other close friends formed a rotation, ensuring I was not alone for too long during those first difficult weeks. They brought meals, distraction, and most importantly, validation that I had made the right decision. Amanda made several attempts to access the house. Once she tried to use the garage code, not realizing I had changed that too. Another time she showed up with a locksmith of her own, who refused to help when I presented proof the house was solely in my name. She eventually resorted to having her attorney contact mine, demanding access to retrieve additional belongings. We arranged a supervised visit, with Thomas present, to ensure nothing beyond her personal items was taken. Throughout all this, I maintained my composure, speaking only through my attorney, and focusing on moving forward, rather than looking back. The weeks turned into months. On Thomas's recommendation, I joined a support group for men going through divorce. The first meeting was uncomfortable, sitting in a circle with strangers, all of us nursing similar wounds. But as I listened to their stories, I realized I was not alone in my experience. James, a 42-year-old construction manager, had discovered his wife's affair through their shared cloud storage, finding videos she had made with her personal trainer. Anthony, a kindergarten teacher, had been gaslighted for years by his wife, who convinced him he was paranoid while maintaining multiple relationships. Their stories helped normalize my feelings and provided perspective. I began rediscovering myself as an individual rather than half of a couple. I resumed rock climbing, a hobby I had abandoned during marriage, because Amanda complained about the time it took. I joined a community coding project, contributing my software skills to develop applications for local nonprofits. These activities not only filled my time but reconnected me with parts of myself that had been suppressed. Therapy became an essential part of my healing. My therapist, Dr. Marshall, helped me work through the stages of grief and betrayal. She challenged me to examine my role in the marriage without accepting blame for Amanda's choices. Did you ignore red flags? Possibly. Does that make her betrayal your fault? Absolutely not. The choice to cheat, rather than communicate honestly, was entirely hers. These sessions helped me process my anger in healthy ways rather than letting it consume me. They also prepared me for the inevitable moments when mutual friends would choose sides, or when I would encounter reminders of my former life. 6 months after that fateful night, the divorce was finalized. Thomas had built a solid case using the evidence of infidelity, resulting in a settlement that favored me on most counts. Amanda received her portion of our joint savings, but none of the equity in the house. The judge was particularly unmoved by her claims of emotional abandonment after seeing the text messages that revealed her calculated deception. The day the divorce was final, I took myself to dinner at a new restaurant across town. As I sat alone savoring a well-prepared meal and a glass of good wine, I reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. I had survived the worst betrayal imaginable from the person I had trusted most. I had stood up for my values and self-worth when it would have been easier to compromise. I had rebuilt a life that was different than planned but authentically mine. That night I wrote in my journal, "Today marks the official end of a chapter. I never expected to conclude this way, but endings make space for new beginnings. I am not the same person I was a year ago. I am stronger, wiser, and more certain of what matters. I have learned that loving someone does not mean abandoning your values or sacrificing your dignity. True love respects boundaries, honors commitments, and tells the truth even when it is difficult. I am grateful for this hard-won wisdom, though I wish the lesson had come more gently. Life continues to unfold in unexpected ways. I recently accepted a promotion that will challenge me professionally and bring new people into my life. I have reconnected with friends Amanda had subtly separated me from during our marriage. Most importantly, I have reclaimed my sense of self-trust, that inner knowing that recognizes when something is wrong and deserves to be honored. If you are facing betrayal in your own life, remember that your boundaries are valid. Your expectations of honesty and respect are not unreasonable. Standing up for yourself is not selfish, it is essential. The path forward may be difficult, but on the other side of that difficulty lies a life of authenticity and renewed purpose. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect your self-respect? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and growth. Share it with someone who might need to be reminded of their worth. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most meaningful beginnings.